Welcome to a special episode of the Elite Selling Podcast. As always, it's Friday and it's your hosts, Frankie and Griffin. Today, no guest. We've got a special episode. We have so many friends that are in the job market today asking Frankie and I for best practices, recommendations. Frankie and I, we just switched roles, both of us within the last 6 months. So we thought we'd come out with a special episode today. 5 steps that we recommend to land your perfect sales role. We're going to go down the list, give you some recommendations. After the episode, we'll wrap and would love your feedback. If you're liking the podcast, as always, subscribe, share, like it. But let's get into it. Frankie, kick us off with number
Let's
one
do it.
recommendation. How are we going to land this perfect sales job?
All right, let's go. So it starts with knowing where you want to end up, right? So not all jobs are created equal. Not all companies are created equal. So it's so important for you to do your homework, just like the people that are interviewing you would do their homework against you. You need to do your homework for the jobs and the companies that you're going to apply. So for that breaks down to understanding the products that you're going to be selling, the training that you'll get, the culture, the pay, the personas that you're selling to. So think about, is the product, is it a leader in the space? Is it behind? Are you willing to be somebody that takes them to the next level? Or do you want to go to a big company? Do you want to go to a small company? Do you want to be the person, the rep that is bringing in your expertise and helping to add to the community of sales, whatever that looks like? So it's really important to, first of all, figure out the company you're working for, the problem that they're solving, right? So do you actually enjoy the problem that they're solving? Do you enjoy the customers, the personas that they speak to? Because if you don't, Griffin and I have both been there where, it feels like Groundhog's Day, where you don't feel like you're excited to go to work. And that really shows up when you're speaking to your customers and speaking to your prospects. So you have to intrinsically be excited about what you're selling, who you're selling to. So that's step one. And then one other critical component is understanding the OTE. That's just one component of what you do. So you need to start digging into, are people, are sales reps attaining that quota? Are they exceeding it? Do they have a proven track record of making their reps successful by giving them enablement, by giving them training, by helping them to succeed? Or are you out on an island? So one could be better for somebody that might be more seasoned and they can bring their own expertise to the table. Or if you're maybe new in your career, you need to make sure you're asking, hey, how do you make your reps successful? How do you make sure that they're not, doing their own thing and trying to learn on their own? What kind of training program do you have? Do you have a sales qualification methodology like MedPick or BANT or something like that? Tell me a little bit more about that. So before you even start going down the path of reaching out and submitting your resume on LinkedIn, you need to make sure that you're starting with the end in mind and saying, hey, if I actually land this role, am I going to enjoy it? Is it going to be a good fit? And even more importantly, can I be successful there, right? Because if you're in sales, like, you're here to make money, you're here to transform lives, you're here to sell solutions. So you need to make sure you're setting yourself up for success. All right, Griff, what's number 2?
No, awesome recommendations, Frankie. And just, I think the thesis there was research. Do your research. Like a good seller researches their customers and prospects. If you're looking for a new job, you have to research the company that you're applying for, or the industry that you're interested in. Do your research, and that will go a long way, especially in the interview process. So great job, Frankie. So that's recommendation number one. Do your homework, find the right company. Number two, I'm just going to give you some tips on cleaning up your resume and your LinkedIn. You would be shocked at how many reps have sent me their resumes, and it's over 2 pages. That's a no-no. It might piss some people off, but Frankie and I were talking. Your resume should be clean, concise, 1 page, should focus on attainment over the last few years against your quota, big deals that you've closed that you're proud of. So many sales leaders love to ask, tell me about a deal you're proud of. Tell me about a deal that you lost. So come prepared with those. And what they want to see is, do you have the ability to think strategically about your deal? And what was your key takeaways from that deal? And is this something you give a lot of time and energy and thought to? The deals that you've either closed or lost. What did you learn from the deals that you lost? So those are some of the things that they want to see on a resume. They don't really care about the soft skills, the soft, bullet points that don't have any. They want to see data. They want to see data around what you've closed, proven track record of success, awards that you've collected over your career. Focus on those and keep them to one line, less wordy, concise. That's the key. And run them through AI. Run it through ChatGPT to say condense this resume that I've built down to one page. That's a great option right there. Number one. So keep that resume clean, concise, and to the point. For your LinkedIn, again, we're in sales, we're professionals, especially younger in your career. Like, the first thing people are looking at when they look at you as a candidate is your LinkedIn. Have a, again, at least early in your career, have a clean profile picture. You don't need your dog in the picture. You don't need a picture of you from 50 feet away with the ocean as the backdrop. And I'm guilty of it. I used to have my wedding photo as my profile picture. If that's the best photo of you got, okay, sure. But iPhone's got some great cameras these days. I spent $150 on professional headshots, and they've gone a long way. So really make sure you have a good profile picture. And then again, just for LinkedIn's sake, if you have people that can write a letter of recommendation for you, there's little blurbs down there that people forget that are very, very powerful, especially when you have a recruiter looking at your profile. See if reach out to someone you've worked with in the past and see if they'd be willing to write you a letter of recommendation. If you, especially in sales, force management training, if you've gone through that through your company, make sure you put that license and that certification on your profile. There's courses on LinkedIn that you can take that are going to boost your credibility, like MedPick training, client relationship building classes and courses that you can take. So look into some of those and then put them on your website or put them on your LinkedIn. That will go a long way. Honestly, the skills at the bottom of your resume and your education, more and more companies are not taking education into consideration. That's a hot take from somebody who spent a lot of money on my MBA. But like, if you are maybe not that educated traditionally in college or whatever, but MedPick, command of the message, how to navigate complex deals, they're going to take that into consideration more than your university credentials. So they give me some high level tips on LinkedIn. Hopefully those are helpful. And Frankie, I don't know if you have anything to add there, but I'll kick it back to you for number 3.
Yeah, I like that you talked about making sure that you have your stories around your deals and having the data behind it. The more data that you can have,
100%.
you're gonna set yourself up for success. Gone are the days where you can just like come in there and charm somebody and
Yeah.
get a job. Like, you actually have to walk through
Your
real.
personality is only going to get you so far. You need to be prepared going into an interview, and that starts with your LinkedIn and that starts with your resume. Get that all down on paper.
Cool. All right. So number 3. So how to stand out in the interview process. So I'm going to talk you through how to at least get the initial interview to how to make sure you stand out throughout the entire process. So the worst thing you could possibly do is go on LinkedIn and be like everybody else. You got to remember, if you're listening to this, Griff and I are assuming that you're a sales professional going for an AE, AM role, something within sales. So you got to treat the sales interview process as an actual sales campaign. It's like you would just go and sell a normal deal. You got to treat this process like you're selling yourself, because you are. So the worst thing you can do is go on and click submit LinkedIn resume, sit back, relax, hope that the interviews roll in. Like, that's never going to happen. And if it
Bottom
does,
of the list
if it
immediately.
does, call me, call Griff, because you should go apply for the lottery, because that's like as good of a chance you have at getting a job. So that's definitely something you need to do, but like, that's the most bare minimum. What you need to start thinking about doing is, again, treat it as a sales campaign. First, once you've done your research, cleaned up your LinkedIn profile and resume, like Griff talked about, now you go and look at your potential hiring managers. So let's say I'm going for a strategic AE role at Cisco in the East Coast, and it's based in Atlanta. So I'm going to Atlanta, Cisco, and I'm looking at all the potential strategic directors or AE managers. I'm directly reaching out to them. I'm directly reaching out to anybody in that sphere of influence. I'm reaching out to other AEs, to other AMs, anybody that might have my potential hiring manager's ear. And I'm saying, hey, I'm applying for this job. Here's why I think I'd be a good fit. can I grab 15 minutes of your time to talk about XYZ? And before you even get on the phone with the recruiter or the hiring manager, the goal is for you to have your name out there. Like, hey, who's this Frankie guy? Who's this Griff guy? Like, I've been hearing a lot about them. And you want to be that person that has had 3 or 4 different calls before you even get on that initial interview. Number one, to stand out, but number two, to also do your research, going back to point number one. So make sure you're being proactive, make sure you're going out and reaching out to people on the team. The second thing you want to do is you want to start to do some back channeling, right? You want to start to talk to different customers within their org, within their sphere. If you can go figure out who those people are and go see what they like about the company, what they might not like, so you can speak intelligently to the role. And then again, I'm just going to double down on the point that Griff made. Have your stories about how you've been successful in the past dialed in. Don't just come in there and wing it. Have specific deals that you've done, have specific obstacles that you've overcome. I remember me and my friend Alex, when we both started at Cisco and we were interviewing for other roles, we had a list of 20 different potential questions that could be asked to us during the interview process, and we would role play them back and forth. So again, wrapping up this point, we know how tough the job market is right now. There's been multiple layoffs. People are switching jobs. It's very competitive. So why not like take this action and put yourself out there and do the research? Because once you're on the phone with that person, that's your one shot. So it's better to be prepared because you're going to show up with more excellence and you're going to rise above the noise of everybody else.
Awesome. Yeah, Frankie, to your point of having reps or someone reach out or just apply to a job on LinkedIn or on the website, that is an immediate no. Okay.
Yep.
Think about this. At 99% of the big tech companies in the space today, companies are offering reps and people within the company big bonuses. Maybe not huge bonuses, but anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 we've seen
It's good money.
for a referral. And
Yeah.
all this person has to do is get your resume and submit it in their system in, Workday or Lever or whatever application tracking software that they use. It is in their best interest. So my point is, if I'm trying to go sign or work for a new job at a new company, I'm not going to go apply online. I'm going to go hit up another AE that I might have a mutual connection with, or find somebody that I have a mutual connection with. And it's like, just get my resume in the door. I'm going to crush the interview. You're going to make, you'll get a bonus for doing nothing.
Yeah.
So it's 100% in your best interest to work with somebody at that company. Figure out a way to get anybody to refer you for that role. Okay.
Yeah. Great point. What's the next one?
So you found the company, you've cleaned up your resume, you've PG'd, right? You've pipeline generated, you've done your outbound research, your outreach to the company, and now you've actually got the interview. So the way that usually works is you're going to have an initial conversation with either the recruiter or the hiring manager themselves. We're going to focus on that right now. So the biggest thing that you can do is prepare. Come prepared to that conversation. And don't just have like the about you preparation. Come prepared to talk about their business and what their process. So what I always recommend is come prepared with your own questions for the interviewer. This is just as much an opportunity for you to interview them as it is for them to interview you. If you come to a first interview, and they ask you, "Hey, what kind of questions do you have for me?" and you go, "No, I'm good. I don't have any questions."
Done.
As a manager, like that to me shows me you're not in this. Like you have no vested interest of whether or not, like you're not interested in the company. You have no questions about the company. You don't want to know anything about me or my personal goals, ambitions, how I run my team, what we do. That's an immediate red flag. So come prepared like a discovery conversation in a sales process, right? For example, hey, Mr. Hiring Manager, I noticed that on your most recent earnings transcript, your CEO mentioned that a major focus this year is going to be around sales productivity. Like, how do you feel about that? How do you measure productivity for your team, and what can I do to help this team, when I join, really stand out? They will fall back in their chairs if you ask a question like that to show, hey, I've done my homework. I saw that in the most recent earnings call. You guys want to do this versus, oh, you talk to me about the company culture. What's the company culture like? Do you guys do happy hours? Is that fun? Or what's your favorite part about this company? That requires no homework, and that's a soft ass question. You heard it here. Hot take. That's a soft question. Like that's not going to get you anywhere. Also, come prepared to the conversation. So come prepared with your questions. Put a list of questions together that show you've done your homework and you're interested in next steps, and then come with data points about yourself and your performance and your history. Like you're here to sell yourself, and what you want to do is talk about your current OTE, your current quota attainment, percentage of quota attained over the last few years. Have you been to President's Club? What's your average deal size? What's your average sales cycle? How many people are involved? How many decision makers are involved in your deals today? And what's your qualification methodology that you like to use today? What does your company ask that you use? What's your sales process? There's a big difference between your sales qualification methodology and your sales process. Have those two outlined and be able to speak to those.
What's the difference, Griff? Real quick.
So qualification methodology is basically what you're doing to navigate what you don't have in a deal. You're qualifying, is this an actual deal, or is this, are we solving real pain, or is this a nice to have, right? And you're asking questions like, what's the current state? What happens if things don't get solved? What would you like things to be? What's required to get there? What happens if we solve this today? Why do we need to solve this today versus 6 months from now? What you're doing is you're qualifying whether or not you have a real deal. A sales process is your step by step, the way you move a deal through the funnel. So at the beginning, for example, you have a discovery stage. Then once you've qualified it a little bit further, you move it to a technical deep dive. Then once you've qualified it a little bit further, now it's at the EB, or the economic buyer go, no go. Once you've made it past the EB conversation, now you're in negotiation. So that's your sales process. Is as you qualify, you move it further down the sales process.
Yep.
So that's the breakdown there at a very high level. Do your own research on the different qualification methodologies and typical sales process at the enterprise or strategic level, and that will go a long way. Then the last two things, maybe not for the initial conversation, you can if you want to, but prep with another AE. Reach out to an AE that is on that team. That's my favorite thing to do, is because you got to be honest, like as much as you want to love the company you're interviewing for and you want things to work out, what AEs at the company will do, what the managers won't, so they'll give you a little inside baseball. They'll tell you a little really what's going on, like really how many reps at that company are hitting quota. What's this manager like? What's their coaching style? They'll give you that intel because they have no skin in the game. Like there's no reason they shouldn't. So always, when possible, reach out to an AE and get a conversation. And then the last thing, the non-negotiable that Frankie and I talk about, is anytime you wrap a conversation in an interview, you always lock in and close next steps. Hey, do I have your permission to move forward in the process? Maybe not permission, but I think a better question, Frankie, is do you have any hesitation moving me forward to next steps in the process?
Yeah.
Kind of put them on the spot a little bit and see, number one, do they have any hesitation? But number two, it shows that you can close on next steps. So those are my non-negotiables for the interview process.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't ask that last question, you're gonna get some marks against you because you're in a sales role. Like you need to be having those next steps. They're gonna appreciate that you're asking for the close, that you're asking for the next step. So I would 100% do that, even if it feels a little awkward. You're like, this isn't a sales call. It's a sales call.
Yeah.
You're proving your skills. You're proving you know how to own the room, own the conversation, guide next steps. So it's an absolute non-negotiable. So on that note, the last and final point here is following up. So following up, if you've done a good job, like Griff just talked about, you're going to have a lot of information on the company during that interview, what they're looking for, any hesitations they might have had with you, any red flags they might have called out. You have every single right to ask them that question as you're moving through the next steps and as you're wrapping up and closing for that next step question, like Griff mentioned. So in your follow up, it needs to be absolute the same day. I don't care if your interview's at 5 p.m. and you got something else to do. You need to make sure that you're getting out that follow up the same day, not 24 hours, not 24 hours the next day from the interview, but the actual same day. You want to show that you're excited about the opportunity. And let's talk specifically about the email follow up. You're not just sending, hey, thank you, can't wait for the next steps, thank you for the opportunity. That's line number one. But underneath that, you need to add what you would add in a normal sales follow up. Hey, based on the conversation, here are 3 bullet points why I think I would be a good fit for the role. Boom, boom, boom. You talked about those in the interview. You listened to the section that Griff just walked you through. You're going to have all the notes that you need to do to make sure that you have that taken care of. Then you're talking about the next steps. Thanks for the time. Here's the 3 reasons why I'd be a good fit for the company. I'm really looking forward to talking to Joe Smith on February 5th at 5 p.m. Or if you don't have clarity on the next steps, you're asking for it. So it's really important to do that. And one thing that I've seen reps do really, really well is within their next steps, they will add a PG plan, like a pipeline generation plan, or they will add, a previous deck, a deal deck that they've done that they've walked their prospects through. I'm just giving you kind of blanket ones here. You got to make it relevant to what the conversation was, but don't be afraid to go above and beyond and add like some of your previous portfolio or work that you've done before to that follow up. And if you're listening for the first time you've ever been in sales, or maybe you don't have a bunch of deals that you've done in the past, go above and beyond and like put together an idea of, hey, based on the company, based on the conversation, is it going to be heavy outbound, heavy research? Like, go and try and put some work together and at least take a stab at it, because you're not expected to have all the answers done and know everything about the company as you're interviewing. But what you are expected is to have this level of preparedness, excellence, follow up, and stand out and actually put the effort forth. And I can tell you, the hiring manager and anybody that you're talking to, they're going to appreciate the effort that you put into it, especially when you're building out those custom docs that you can put into the follow-up note. So again, my theme over the last 3 has been treat it like a sales campaign and not just like another interview, but actually go above and beyond and take them through an interview experience, just like you would take them through a sales experience. So that's all I had. Griff, let's wrap it up here. Any
Yeah.
final words?
No, I think we have research the company, LinkedIn, your resume, get those cleaned up. Frankie gave us some good recommendations on how to stand out. I gave you some good recommendations on the interview process and what you need to come prepared with. And then Frankie just dropped the mic with the non-negotiable follow-ups. So hopefully this episode was helpful for you. If you're in the job market, reach out to Frankie and me. We're happy to help out and give you some more recommendations. We want to help. We want to help our listeners. So everybody, thank you again for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.
Go get it.